Hey guys, welcome to the Massive Iron Channel. I'm Steve Shaw. In this video, I'm going to give you a 12-week bench or squat specialization program that you can run multiple times a year and even test your max at the end if you want. Before I get into this topic, if you guys need coaching, check out the link below. I would love to help. All right. What we have here is basically a 12-week squat or bench specialization program. It's not something I would recommend running on deadlifts or any other similar really heavy posterior chain lift like the deadlift, but you could run it on bench. You could run it on your squats if you wanted to. Now, what I'm about to show you could be run 2 or 3 days a week. I'm going to get into the nuts and bolts of things. There's basically a couple of different cycles. You can have weeks 1 through 6 where you're going to attack the lift with a lot of intensity. Week 7 is going to be kind of a deload or lighter week. Then you're going to have 4 heavier weeks. You're going to return back to the attack. You're going to peak. And then week 12, you're going to have a little bit lighter week or a deload. And then week 13, if you wanted to, you could test your 1 rep max or simply take a little bit of a break and return to this cycle again. You could basically run this cycle 4 times a year if you wanted to. It's just structured to be run basically every 13 weeks. Now, again, I said you could run this for bench or squats. Here on this chart, you see 3 training days. You see heavy, light, and volume. The light day is optional. You could run a 2-day-a-week bench specialization. You could run a 3-day-a-week bench specialization with a lighter, more recovery type of day in the middle, or flushing day where you could do some assistance work like close grip bench or whatever. 2 days is probably best, but 3 days for somebody that really wants to go hardcore and all in on the specialization focus. Now, I want you guys to understand that the heavy and volume days are really the pillars here, the real meat and potatoes of this program. What I call them heavy and volume. Heavy is going to start out heavy, and then it's going to add more volume during the last 4 weeks. And volume is going to start out more volume, and then it's going to move more heavy during the last 4 weeks. So there's going to be a little bit of a evolution of this program on each of these days, and we'll dive into that just a little bit. If you guys like the look of this program and want me to create a custom program, I drop a link down below to that service. All right, so let's look at the week. We're going to kind of ignore the lighter week because that speaks for itself. The first thing you're going to need to do, take one of your most recent big bench press sets. It could be like 230 by 5 or 185 by 10, whatever your best recent set is as far as weight and reps. Now, you're going to take that over to a 1 rep max calculator, just that single set, to estimate your current 1 rep max. And again, you can do this for bench or squats. So let's say you get 200, 225, 250 as your estimated 1 rep max. That's what you're going to base all the percentages off of. Now, I want you to make sure you rest a couple days in between these workouts. So if you do a heavy day on Monday, rest at least Tuesday and Wednesday and come back Thursday for volume. Volume, you probably need 3 rest days before you go back to heavy. So after your heavy day, it's probably best to rest 2 days. After your volume day, it's probably best to rest 3 days. If you add the light day in, you could do like the heavy day on Monday, like the light day on a Wednesday, or even a follow-up on Tuesday if you wanted to. So you're doing the heavy day on Monday, the light on Tuesday or Wednesday. And then you're taking at least 2 complete days from that heavy day before you do your volume day. Now let's look at the heavy column. We start off with 4x4 at 80%. We work to 4x3 at 82.5%. 4x2 at 85. You can see kind of what we're doing here. We're keeping the 4 sets and dropping a rep while increasing the intensity. Now we're going to cycle back and we're going to add a little bit of volume. So we're going to go from a 4x4 on week 1 to a 5x4 on week 4. So we're cycling back, we're adding a little bit more volume, and we're starting back with that percentage baseline of 80. So we move from 4x4 to 5x4, 4x3 to 5x3, and then 4x2 to 5x2. So that's the first 6 weeks of the heavy side of training. The volume, you start at 5x10 and you work all the way down to 5x5. Now, I will say, if you want to increase the intensity on any of these, you could push the last set for as many reps as possible. This can kind of be an indicator of how you're doing on your program. So if you get to week 6 and you have your heavy day and you push that last set of 5x2 for as many reps, and you get 5 or you get 6, you're going to feel like, hey, I'm in a pretty good place. So don't hesitate to push that last set safely for as many reps as possible. Now, week 7 is going to be your light or deload week. When we come back to week number 8, you can see we started out on the heavy column, we started out 4x4 at 80%. On week 8, we're at 5x5 at 80%. So we went from week 1, 4x4. We went to week 4, 5x4, and now we're week 8. We're adding a little bit more volume. So we're transitioning from slightly heavy to slightly volume on this heavy day. And this continues. You're going to do 5x4 week 9, 5x3 week 10, and 5x2 at week 11 at 87.5% of your 1 rep max. Now let's look at the volume day. Once you get to week 8, we're going to drop down. So we're kind of doing an approach on the volume day where we're transitioning from volume to intensity. And we're going to get really intense. The intensity on the volume day is going to be stronger than the intensity on the heavy day. So week 8, we're going to move down to 5x2 at 85%. Week 9, you're at 4x2 at 87.5%. Week 10, 5x1 at 90%. And week 4, 4x1 at 92.5%. So you can see on that volume day, you start out at 5x2. And you move forward until you hit basically 4x1 at 92.5%. And again, if you want to push these last sets for as many reps as you can, go right ahead. Now, don't tinker with the percentages. Trust the process. Bench building or squat building is a long-term process. This is set up to kind of work your body hard, but you have to stay with the structure. You have to trust the process. If you start tinkering with things, you run the risk of doing too much volume or run the risk of doing too much intensity. This is one of those programs where you might not be pushing every set to the limit, but because you start to do so much heavy work that we really need to take care of the body. We really need to dial in our form, and we really need to make sure that we're taking care of our body so we can come out of week 12, we can come out on week 13 and we're feeling healthy and ready to attack or even ready to repeat the cycle. So we're trying to avoid beating the living crap out of our body, if that makes sense. So if you wanted to run this in the context of like a body part split, you could have your heavy day on like your chest day, and then you could put your volume bench press maybe on a shoulder day later in the week, but you could lead the shoulder day with your bench press volume. Again, remember, this is a specialization program, so your shoulders would have to take a back seat to your chest training during this type of programming. I would recommend something like an upper posterior for a bench specialization program because it allows you to have 2 days of benching. And then at the end of these days, you can fit in extra chest work. You can fit in some supplementary work like dumbbell bench or close grip bench or floor press or anything you really want that makes sense. And you can also squeeze in your triceps work at the end of these upper days as well. Now, for those of you guys that are going to do a squat specialization program, you could run this with the upper posterior as well. Basically, the posterior day is the day where you're doing legs and back. So you could obviously start out the legs and back day with the squats and then move on to your back work. In the context of a body part split, if you want to do this, I would do the obviously squats on leg day, and then when you come back to back day, I would put squats first. All right, guys, let me know what you think. Drop a comment down below. Are you going to run this program? What type of assistance work are you going to use? Are you going to use the light day? And how many days a week are you going to train? All right, guys, thanks for watching. Have a great day.